Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Lurkin from Mobalytics. I just wanted to go over some of the balance changes that I saw in these new patch notes that are going to be coming out on March 5th, 2024 with the Gauntlet. So first off, we're just going to start going down the list. Accursed Touch. I don't see myself slotting this in any of the builds, but now, lucky hit, you're going to have a chance to inflict a Vampiric Curse, and then all the enemies under the curse are going to be vulnerable. So this is just free vuln. I think going forward for S4, I'm going to be slotting Accursed Touch into some builds to sort of free us up from being locked into Lightning Spear and things like that. So next of Metamorphosis. So we get Metamorphosis is back. Huge. Not huge for Sorcerer. Sorcerer will not be running this. I do not recommend anything that increases your evade as a Sorcerer. Our biggest strength is movement. Anything that hinders our movement, this evade, we don't need this. We have Teleport to proc Unstoppable, and we have Flame Shield. We're all set. This is not for us. Blood Boil, Overpower, not for us. Next is Hectic. Hectic's really good, but for basic skill builds, I can mainly see this being slotted on legendary boots, or maybe a chest piece, but we need raiment for the speed farm stuff. Maybe even you could, if you don't have Shaco, you can definitely put Hectic on your helmet or something like that. And I can even see this being ran on variants where you're not running Flicker Steps or Asus, and you're just running like attacks reduce evade legendary boots with Shrine Duration and ranks the teleport. So Hectic, look out for that. Definitely slot that in some builds if you can afford it. Undying is just this huge quality of life. Not necessary in any current content, but some people like being really comfy. So Undying coming back, I loved this aspect, and it's part of the reason why I slotted health on kill in a lot of my builds at the beginning of the season. Now we go into the big hitter, Moonrise. So gain 40 to 80% basic skill damage and 15% movement speed for 10 seconds after damaging an enemy with a basic skill 5 times. 4% attack speed per stack. You hit 5 stacks, you enter the Blood Rage, you get the 80% skill damage and 50% movement speed. So this is basically just a better version of Adaptability. Let me see if I can pull Adaptability up real quick. So that's this right here. When cast at or above 50% max 50% max resource, basic skills gain 80% increased damage. So this Moonrise right here replaces Adaptability on all builds, and I'm just going to talk about this really briefly. One issue that arises with Moonrise is where it's placed in the attack speed bucket. And where it's placed is in the same bucket as Ancient Flame. So a lot of these basic skill attack builds, they have Ancient Flame on the amulet. So that's a 75% value. And then as you can see, with the 15% roll on Pain Gorgers, that takes us to 90. And then our Moonrise overcaps us by 10%. So the attack speed from Moonrise gets wasted. That's okay. So what you can end up doing is, if you want, you can take the 50 here. That'll bring you to 65. That'll bring you to 85 for the first bucket. And then for the second bucket, you're looking at, right now it's 30 plus 25 plus 15 because you have Shaco. So you only have the 15% basic skill attack speed. So we have the 30% from Rapid that's typically taken on the Dagger. We have 25% UC that takes us to 55. And then we have 15% on the offhand. That takes us to, let's see, 55. That takes us to 70. So what we can look at doing is replacing Ancient Flame on the amulet with Rapid so that we can get another 85 here. That way we're at 85 and 85. And nothing's being wasted. Yeah, it ends up being a wash, but what it does open you up to is it opens you up to running an elixir so that you can get another 20. So that way you can hit 100. You know what I mean? So now this slot, this first cap isn't completely capped. So TLDR, take Ancient Flame off the amulet, put it on a ring, and replace Adaptability. So it's going to end up looking like this. Let's pull this up real quick. So what it's going to end up looking, let's just remove this. All right, whatever. So it's going to end up looking like this. You're going to put Ancient Flame here. Loop. And then you're going to have Amulet. Probably for Gauntlet, you're going to want something that looks like this. Like Shrine Buff, Duration, Cooldown Reduction. As if you're running a basic skill attack speed build. Shrine Buff, Cooldown. Let's max this guy out. And then we're going to slot. Actually, I can't even slot it because max roll isn't updated. But you would slot Moonrise here for the, you get 120% damage out of it. All right. I'm scuffing this. Let's move on to the next thing. TLDR, move Ancient Flame off the amulet, put Moonrise there, move Ancient Flame on the ring. Alright, next. General balance. The one's Ring of Starless Skies now shows the buff on the bar. Cool. Penitent Greaves, still won't use it. Got a damage buff, still won't use it. Tacit to the Dawning Sky. What are you doing with this thing? Get rid of it. Rework it. Terrible. Mother's Embrace, still terrible. Okay, I guess if you're leveling and you're really struggling. Intercom, Sorts doesn't stand still a lot, but I can see this being utilized in super meme and niche 4-man Durio carries, if that's like something you're into. But I'm not really into anything that has to do with farming Durio. It's kind of get in, get out. I'm not trying to spec for that. Just kind of let a Hodobarb one-shot it for me. Thanks. Retribution, distant enemies, stun chance, increase from 8 to 10%. Okay. Damage to stun enemies increased from 20 to 25%. Alright, man. Still not going to get slotted. Controls 35% damage to stunned. This stun chance thing doesn't make it worth taking over control. This aspect's still garbage. Bring it back to 40%. That way it actually has a reason to get slotted over the control aspect. Starlight, something, life heal, I don't care. Next. I don't care about Starlight. I think that was some form of meme with Selig. Stop asking me about Selig. Yo, can I put Selig on this build? Stop. Get some help. Selig's bad. If you need it to survive, I don't know, man. Figure something out. Hit spacebar more. Proc more DR from teleport and chat. Alright, the biggest one here. Incinerate. Still garbage. So right now, think about Incinerate this way. Right now, it's getting a 50% damage buff from Flash of Adrenaline with Genesis. So at base, it's got a 50% damage buff combined with like all the ranks from Evernight and Shago. So even if it gets a 40%, it's F tier right now with all the bells and whistles. It is F tier and terrible. So even if its base damage gets a 40% damage buff, like if you look at it in the internal realm, like it is still terrible. So like no matter what sort of things you use in a season to try and prop it up more, at base it's garbage. So if you add 40% damage to something that's F tier, it gets taken to D, maybe C tier. It's still trash. This wasn't enough. We needed 100% damage here. You guys needed to double Incinerate's damage. I don't think you guys are. I don't think Blizzard is up to date. Like you guys need to watch my videos of like what's meta, what's crushing, like, what we're able to do. You guys like don't. You're not aware of like what's going on with the class. And that's shown through some of these things. So some of the enhanced, incinerate, destructive, greater, some of these notes got buff. I don't care. This skill's still F. It's D tier now. It went from F to D. Thanks. Hydra damage got increased a little bit. All right. The issue with Hydra still is that it's burn. It's the third node that makes things burn doesn't proc X fails, and that will always be Hydra's issue. So make that node have lucky hit chance, and boom, Hydra's way more viable now because it can proc X fails. Ball Lightning got a 10% damage buff. All right, fam. I guess we'll take it. I think the reason they did that was because this node right here is broken. The enhanced Ball Lightning. Oh, and by the way, they shadow fixed Verse. So this close enemies take 15% increased damage from your shock skills just used to not work. Now it does. So like you'll be seeing me in some of my builds, like on my Lycander build, Ancient Flame is gone. I just put Rapid on the amulet, and now I'm taking Verse. Ver works again. We get DR and we get like 15-20% damage to enemies close to me. Huge. If you can get attack speed another way, just get rid of Ancient Flame, get rid of Ace's Ferocity, and just take Verse again. Verse is massive. That's so much damage. So Ball Lightning got a buff. That's cute. Icy Veil, that's cute. If you're running like a basic skill build where you have extra skill points in your skill tree, you can take Icy Veil for longer barriers. Okay. Snap Freeze, sweet. Don't care. Just run Frostburns if you want to freeze things, or just like freeze things with Blizzard. Soulfire. So Soulfire, let's pull this guy up. Soulfire is now going to... This node was useless after standing still. Your shit costs less mana. Now they're going to cost 12% less mana at 3 ranks and deal 6% increased damage. So that's pretty dope. Doubled after standing still, so that's going to be good for some boss burns, especially like on Fireball when you use the Supreme Inferno, and then you just stand there and Giga Cast. So that's dope. That's going to be taken on builds now. I'll have to rework some of my skill trees. Avalanche got a buff. All right. Shocking Impact got a buff. That might actually be pretty big for Hell Tides and definitely Gauntlet, because that enemies are T70 and you get a lot of spears going around in a lot of these speed farm builds with Flicker Step, Teleport, Enchant. So, yeah, you might end up one-banging a lot of enemies with your spears or whatever. Frostbite Glyph. I like Frostbite. So let's go into the Paragon. So Frostbite, the issue with Frostbite is that you can't chill a boss. So 14.8% increased damage to chill targets, and now when enemies deal, now they deal 15% roost damage to you for 5 seconds after they are no longer frozen. And the issue with this is after an enemy is no longer frozen, I've killed it. It's dead. So this does nothing for me. After I cast a bunch of blizzards on an enemy and they're frozen and they become unfrozen, they're dead. This is an abattoir. Let's go back into here. Invocation, some Conjurer Glyph got a little bit of buff. That's cool. I'm trying to make some pure conch builds work, and they feel clunky. It's just like better to run stuff that isn't like. It's my issue with Meteor too. It's like pure cooldown builds. Like, Stalagmite got a buff, so that's pretty huge from Blizzard. You get the Ice Spike damage, and now you get 20% critical strike, so that's really dope. Enchanter Glyph, which is huge because all of my builds have a value of basically 85.8% non-physical from Enchanter that I put on the Frigid Fate board. Now they're going to have 130% because instead of 6.6 per int, it's going to be 10% per int. So my boards are already cruising. So if you're using any of my builds, any of my boards, they're already prepped for this. Most other builds and boards, they're going to have to respec because they're going to want to put Enchanter now. Baby, I already got it. I've already been ahead of this. I already known it was goated. It was due for a buff. Conjurer, more conjuration skill damage. Alright, whatever. Then we got Unleash. 6.7 to 7. Come on, man. What is that? Unleash is already a last resort glyph. So if you look at Unleashed, 150% bonus to magic. After spending 50 mana, you deal 6.7 more damage. 6.7 more mana regen. They just buffed it to 7. That's a 4% increase from 6.7 to 7, like relative. All right, good try. Maybe you buff it to 10, then we could start talking, because then it starts being as good as other glyphs. But 6.7 to 7, bro, Hoda Barbs are dealing 10 billion damage, and you're. Can I have some more porridge? And you're giving me a 0.3 to a glyph. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Sorry, I just like, bro, I don't think they know what they're doing whatsoever. I'm sorry to be like an asshole here, but like, get it together. Find me on Diablo devs, find me on Discord. I got a whole spreadsheet that I've been meaning to make a video on changes that I want to like a lot of these crap aspects and like, and the one thing I am gonna rave about right now is look at this glyph. Why was there nothing changed to electrocute? This only works on Ceaseless Conduit. One, the 75% bonus to lightning damage and damage reduction modifiers is garbage. Any good sorcerer build worth its salt caps all its resistances without having to rely on these like bloated 20% lightning resist nodes. Like nobody takes those. You cap your resistances just outright by slotting like a magic or a rare node booster on the starter board, and then on Enchantment Master, and then you take like an all resist node on Elemental Summoner or something like that, and then you're Gucci. You're good. You're at 70. Like, why do I need 35% lightning resist? So what? I can be 50% overcapped? Like, this isn't Last Epoch. There's no resistance shred. This shit makes no sense. And then your lightning damage has a 5% increased chance to critically strike. Are you kidding me? Bro, why don't you just make this a freaking Pyromaniac clone? Like, so Pyromaniac, Winter, and Electrocute, they all need to be clones of each other. And they need to have this secondary where it says every pyromancy skill you cast increases your damage by yada yada up to 10%. And then electrocute and winter. Well, winter already is one where it's when you chill an enemy, so that's fine. But electrocute needs to be a clone of this, but with electric skills, or even every every enemy that you shock uh, increases your electric damage by up to 2% up to 10% or whatever. And then they all need to get the winter treatment. What is with this fire node boosting crap? Like, just make them 125% bonus to rares so they can get put on any board. Like, please, for the love of God. Like, no one runs electrocute. Have you not looked at your data? People don't even like running pyromaniac. Even if they slot, the only place you can slot it is searing heat, and it's like still not even really worth it. It's like, I gotta put pyromaniac here. It's just something that you do. And now let's move on to these aspects. Sorry for that rant. Searing wards. That's the firewall one that stops missiles. Still garbage. Why would you use that? We need damage. Burning builds need damage. No one's running this. Stop. And then overwhelming currents. During unstable currents, you have a 20% chance to cast an extra shock skill. Now it's a 30% chance. All right, dude. Why would I take this over like Storm Sweller Conceited that are just like a 25% or a 30% damage buff? Like, we're already fighting for aspects. No one's running this. Just rework it. And that's really all I have to say. The one things I'm really happy with is I'm really happy with the Enchanter buff, the Stalagmite buff. Next we can look at, I don't care about any of these. Shocking Impact buffs, okay. The Ball Lightning buff's huge. Incinerate, still garbage. Give it a whirl though. Have fun. And then the next biggest thing is that the fact that they added Moonrise, which is going to replace Adaptability. Metamorphosis, which is not for Sorcerer, that's pretty dope, but then they had to throw this in to make it not fun. The increased evade cooldown, and then Accursed Touch for free vol. So overall, I'd give the whole thing, give it like a 5 out of 10. They did some cool stuff, but obviously, I mean, it's a mid-season patch. Like, the patch for Season 4 better be huge, Rochester, huge. This thing better be massive, because these changes were not enough. Like, some of these general balance changes, just not enough. But I'm happy with some of the changes, and I'm looking forward to running Gauntlet for a little bit, and then getting bored again, and then maybe getting outside and touching some grass. So I guess that's good. I guess it's good. I'm not too happy with Diablo right now, but I made all my builds. I had some fun, and yeah, I'll continue to make some content here and there. But until Season 4, I'm definitely dialing it back. There's just nothing to do. All right, I'll catch you guys.